Jeff Amerine. We're here from a special edition for the Startup Junkies podcast at the Startup Crawl, and I'm lucky to be joined today by Erin and Bo from GenZ.
That's right.
Tell us about GenZ.
Yeah, it's flavorless, transparent liquid, Jeff.
So it's water with a really cool freaking bottle,
It
right?
is just water in a fully aluminum bottle that is not only refillable, it's resealable, and it's 100% recyclable, but it comes with some crazy critters like Sally, a romantic primate, Jeremy, our blush-tattooed sunfish, Eastwood, our pointing goldfish, and many, many more.
Well, and so this is going to be a venture-backed company. You've started it in Northwest
Yep.
Arkansas. What was the genesis behind all of it? How did you get interested in selling water in a really cool bottle?
It's a pretty saturated category, so you can imagine we had a lot of our friends and family thinking we were incredibly crazy. But it started really in the depths of COVID. While everyone was figuring out how to pivot, we kind of had our heads down and really researched the 150 predecessors that came before us, and we really realized that everyone was playing from the same playbook: pH, alkalinity, and they had brand imagery that was sports bras, triathletes, rich and famous people. And we said, you know, this really is speaking more to the millennial generation, so let's talk to this up and coming Gen Z generation. We have a member of our Gen Z council here.
Are you the Gen Z rep?
I am the Gen Z of Gen Z.
Is that how you came into this tribe of coolness?
Absolutely, and it's been the coolest thing.
Cool.
We definitely have the very sophisticated business background from people who come from very high levels of business. I bring the crazy, I bring the fresh, the new, and I try to keep them on their toes always.
Yeah.
But I mean, that is a good point.
Yeah.
So this is not really your first rodeo.
No.
Talk a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I have a steeped marketing background. I worked at Saatchi & Saatchi X, which is a commerce agency headquartered here in Northwest Arkansas, and worked with some fantastic CPG clients like Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, TrackPhone, Duracell. And so we have me and my fellow co-partners, Neil Mellers and Doug Beatty, who come from CPG beverage background. We have tremendous experience not only in marketing, CPG, Walmart, and retail, and we just said, hey, let's take all those learnings and figure out how we can disrupt a category that is desperately needed to be disrupted, not only from a brand imagery side, but also from the substrate side, from taking out the single-use plastic that is literally filling our earth with trash and moving it to an aluminum bottle that is fully sustainable, it's refillable, recyclable, reusable.
Recyclable and reusable,
Absolutely.
Right?
Think of it like your daily Hydro Flask, that if you lose it, Jeff, your mom won't be mad at you because it will be expensive to replace.
And really cool artwork as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, what's the idea behind the artwork on there?
There's so many things. I mean, think about it, a Gen Zer using a Hydro Flask. She sticker bombs her Hydro Flask with concerts she's been to, stores that she likes, and it helps create these meaningful connections with people around her. And after a pandemic, we need those. So ours come pre-sticker bombed, we like to say, and have almost this moment of reprieve, a moment of nostalgia every time you take a sip, and gives you that happiness that we all could use a little bit more in this world, and especially for Gen Z, who are more anxious, more stressed than any generation of our history.
What's the reception been from buyers and from the channels? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been interesting because so many products are selling on very tangible benefits, products, features, it's 30% more this. We're selling more on an idea and an expression, which is so in line with the Gen Z generation, but it is a switch for more classically trained, older boomer buyers. But we have started to really break through the buyer infrastructure, and they're beginning to see the need to attract that younger generation. So we are having some really great conversations with nationwide retailers.
Wow.
And so we hope to expand into additional markets and get some more tests this year.
Now, are you thinking about going the whole route with NFTs around some of the artwork? Talk about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So obviously our bottle begs NFTs. I mean, who wouldn't want a critter like Sally, a romantic primate, that they could own their own? So it's absolutely going to be a page in our future playbook. What right now we want to just be sure that we can make, because we're such a sustainably backed company, that it can be broadly a sustainable venture, and knowing that those more energy friendly NFT forms become more mainstream and consumers become more aware, I think you'll absolutely see it in the future.
Well, I know that you all have had a great time at the Startup Crawl, but you had some good news here. So what's the big news from the Startup Crawl?
Yeah, well, we won the $500.
The People's Choice, right?
People's Choice from Cox Media for some great free local advertisement. So excited for the rest of Northwest Arkansas to see more about Gen Z.
How cool is that? And Bo, what's next? You're the crazy Gen Z and all this. What's coming next?
I think the really cool thing, Jeff, is the fact that we are so out there, and like Erin's point, going back to the fact that the people in my generation, they have these different bottles that they use on their daily walks of any part of life they're going through, but they cover them with little pieces of what has been impactful in their life. And so I think in this culture of fast fashion, fast this, fast that, we can slow down and enjoy things and enjoy the smile that these bottles bring. And it's so unique because not a lot of products these days really are doing that. It's all, how do I make money off of this? We aren't in that mindset. Right. We are trying to be sustainable and put our best foot forward in order to make a difference. Not
product
only
with a purpose, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't say it better myself.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. This was a pleasure.
And best of luck. We're so excited about what you're doing. Thanks for being part of Startup Crawl. And we look forward to seeing this in lots and lots of retail stores and online as well. Good luck.
Thank you
Good
so
luck
much.
to Gen Z. Thanks for coming on.
We appreciate you guys.
You bet. Calvin Smith is our guest, and we're here again on the Startup Junkies podcast. Special setting today. We're in the Pryor Center. It's the first live, in-person Startup Crawl we've had since 2019. Calvin, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on Calvin. So Calvin Smith is someone that I've known for more than 10 years. You were a student, actually, in my new ventures class.
Yep.
And then you competed in the Governor's Cup, and then we did some collaboration on other things in your NBA project. You were kind of a bigwig at UAMS Northwest. We worked on AR Health Ventures to get that started. Serial entrepreneur, very successful business guy, and importantly, the chairman of the Startup Junkie Foundation. What do you think of the Startup Crawl so far?
Jeff, you guys have done an amazing job. I was telling some people earlier here that I remember 12 years ago, this event was me, you, and about 8 other guys in Mama Carmen's, which was in a building down the street.
Right.
And that would have been the Startup Crawl in 2010, right? And so, it's interesting to see that this started from your vision. I mean, this doesn't happen without Jeff Amerine, but to see that, what has taken place over the last decade, but to, also remind us that everything's a marathon, right?
Yeah.
Like when we're in the startup space, we want everything to happen fast and urgently and right now, but we didn't get from 8 guys in Mama Carmen's to a few hundred people here at Startup Crawl, a few thousand people maybe, without thinking long term and without your vision and your persistence. So well done. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you. But you're a serial entrepreneur. You run a CertaPro franchise. You got a bunch of businesses. Talk about some of what you got your fingers in.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I need to preface this with, so Jeff Amerine is the reason I am an entrepreneur today. I sat in his class probably 12 years ago, and there was maybe me and like 4 other people in the classroom, and I just came out of the Marine Corps, was really looking to, I create my identity after the military, and Jeff being a prior serviceman and things like that, really had a big influence, but really took to entrepreneurship, showed me that it was possible, that I didn't have to be a genius, that I didn't have to create some crazy product, and really started on the path of entrepreneurship. I was at UAMS at the time. We developed this campus here in Northwest Arkansas, had great leadership there. From that, our Ventures, which is now a thriving compounding pharmacy here in Northwest Arkansas, started from that. And then part of my relationship with Jeff also started with a company called Now Diagnostics, which I co-founded when I was going through grad school.
And that was out of the MBA program.
Out of the MBA program.
And that's a big deal. That's raised a bunch of money.
Yeah,
and
we had a lot of success out of the business competition process and everything through the U of A, but we ended up raising a considerable amount of money at the time, I think well over $1 million through Series A and seed funding, and it's gone on to raise many millions more since then. Is doing very well in Northwest Arkansas now. Created a lot of jobs, but that was Now Diagnostics, and I left that company and decided to get into franchising. I now own multiple franchises, all in the trade services. So I own a CertaPro painting franchise, a Sinorama franchise, and multiple Superior Fence franchises. And we employ hundreds of people, create a lot of jobs, and we're very proud of it, do a lot of good work, but none of that would have started had I not had Jeff Amarine's Venture 101 class at the U of A.
Shameless plug.
12 years ago.
No, so. I mean, I think you had the DNA, you would probably have done it, and I would just happen to be in the right place to maybe be a good influence at the time. But I can remember when you and Stacy Tan, and I'm trying to think of who else was in that.
So we had Clea Thomas, Nick Jones, all these guys. Yeah,
a great team, and it was called Health Tap, right?
Keep up to date on the latest news in economic development with the Arkansas Economic Development Commission's Arkansas Inc. newsletter. Each month, get the Arkansas Inc. newsletter, which spotlights the latest project wins and developments throughout the state, delivered to your email. The newsletter features major project announcements, company expansions and relocations, news articles, rankings, and more that highlight why Arkansas is a great state to do business. The newsletter is a snapshot of what AEDC has been working on and what we are following. The Quarterly Tech Trends newsletter highlights the latest news in Arkansas's growing tech sector. You can learn about new Arkansas tech companies, computer science and cybersecurity initiatives, funding and venture capital announcements, and even more. AEDC offers 4 quarterly newsletters: the Food and Beverage Industry Digest, Aerospace and Defense Beacon, Timber Trends, and Tech Trends. To learn more or sign up for a newsletter, visit arkansasedc.com/news.
Yeah, Health Tap. So before cloud computing was a big thing, we had an idea for cloud computing in the healthcare space, and I just came out of the Marine Corps, and ignorantly I had invested about $50,000 of my own money into this venture and lost all of it, but learned a lot through the process, learned a lot through the venture development program, through the U of A, and through your guidance, and that has certainly led to my success now. And when I look at the startup crowd today, and I've thought a lot about this as I've talked to probably a few hundred individuals today, the things I take away from this are the persistence, right? We started in Mama Carmen's. We were 8 people that had this idea that there could be a startup community in Northwest Arkansas.
And we did a bunch of stuff wrong, too. I mean, you remember the, what do we call that? The Northwest Arkansas Entrepreneurship Alliance?
Yeah.
We put a ton of effort into doing it.
We had that. We had the Iceberg.
The Iceberg co-working space.
Which was weird.
And
right?
I never will forget that first conversation I had with one of the original founders, and I was like, man, it's so great you got this open. How much operating capital do you have? And he's like, $5,000. I said, how much is the rent? He said, $5,000. I was like, that shit may not work, right? That may be a problem.
Yes.
But you know what? A bunch of stuff we tried, and it was because we took things on that we didn't know we weren't really ready to do, and we learned a hell of a lot. We actually ran the ARC Challenge out of there. And in fact, a lot of the furniture that we still have over here is furniture we had Windrock purchase for the Iceberg. So even though some of those little failures along the way are what lead to greater success, it's kind of a metaphor for entrepreneurship in general, I would say.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. I think the Startup Junkie motto is a great example of what entrepreneurship is. Again, we had persistence. It took a lot of time, much longer than we thought it would, right? And a lot more money, things like that. But you were persistent with it. You brought Brett, and we started the Startup Junkie Foundation. We've developed it into not only a nonprofit, but a for-profit opportunity.
Yeah.
A lot of cool things happening, but it's taken a lot of time. And, so the persistence is one thing. The other piece is, cash is king, as you talked about.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that we tried and we failed because we just didn't understand cash flow, or we didn't have the cash coming in. It's not because we weren't smart.
That's
not because we didn't have a great idea, but we were learning these things as we went. And we didn't have the cash 10 years ago to do a couple thousand people startup crawl like we have here today, which is amazing. So that's another piece. And then the last piece I think that we really learned, and this is what I feel like you're the champion of in Northwest Arkansas, is not only the networking, but the selfless giving back, right? Giving back without expecting anything in return.
Yeah.
You had a great opportunity in where you were 10, 15 years ago, where you could have made some better investments. You probably could have selfishly made more money, for Jeff Amerine, but you put a lot of, time, energy, effort into this community, and we've all benefited from it. And so, what I really hope to see out of this next generation of entrepreneurs and all the people here today, all these young companies, they appreciate what's happening here, because it didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
It didn't happen by chance. It's not magic. It's not free. What I really hope happens out of this is that, these 20 to 25-year-olds take this and say, hey, this is really cool. When I'm 35, when I'm 40, when I'm 45, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put my time, energy,
Sure.
and effort, and I'm going to reach out to these young people and keep this momentum going. And that's how we create something special for generations, right? Because
it's a long march, right?
Yeah, because the guys in 2008 didn't have this.
No, that's right.
And so
that's right.
It's a special.
Well, and I got to tell you, we appreciate your leadership. You've been an integral part of the Startup Junkie Foundation, and and there's been things we've had to kind of weave our way through, and we see that only from the periphery because it's an independent board. But it's so critical. It's so critical because this is a movement that's here to support innovators and entrepreneurs that nobody owns.
Sure.
It's got to be driven by the goodwill associated with this sort of coalition of the willing of people that could spend their time other ways, but they see the importance because it lifts people up. That the startup movement can lift people out of their circumstances for a better life. And without the kind of commitment that you've had as the chairman of that group, we might not have gotten there because sometimes there can be competing agendas. So
sure.
It's important. And I got to tell you, a lot of times I only get it secondhand because I know you and Brett are close. Brett Amerine, who's our chief operating officer, who really helps run the show over here. But you guys are doing some amazing things. And it's a lot of fun for me, being the old guy in the picture, to see you guys making the moves you're making and doing all the great things you're doing. It's really awesome to see.
Sure, well, I appreciate that. And Brett's a great instrument in, pushing the decisions and the idea that you had 15 years ago. He's creating that.
He's an operator, and you're a good operator.
But I do got to take the opportunity to thank guys like Dan Sanker, who is a generational entrepreneur in Northwest Arkansas. And
here tonight enjoying the music.
Here tonight, one of the great minds of Northwest Arkansas. The late Ashton McCombs was an incredible influence on this foundation.
Great
and what
friend,
we've developed.
A great entrepreneur.
Yeah, unfortunately passed away last year, but incredible mind, and we were so appreciative of him. But again, what we need is the next generation of people coming up who are learning these things over the next 10 to 15 years to give back selflessly without expecting anything in return, and saying, hey, if I give back to this community, we're all better for it, I'm better for it. And that's really what I'm hoping to see over with the next generation. And because you've done a great job of developing ours, but we need it for the next. And
so 2 final questions for you.
Yep.
When are we going to get you back to Northwest Arkansas full time?
Sure.
That's question 1. Answer that one, and I'll have the question 2.
Sure. So I'm back semi full time. I do own 2 businesses here. One is our Scale Source business, which I partnered with Brett on that, and our Superior Fence business. So I'm here at least one or 2 weeks per month. Still have businesses and property here. Love Northwest Arkansas. Love what the ecosystem here is doing, and the forecast of what this DMA will become over the next 15, 20 years. So I'm very excited about what's happening here on the startup community. Where else can you see a few thousand people in a population like this talking about startups?
No doubt.
It's amazing. You guys should be very proud of it, and I'm super happy to be a part of it. So whether I'm here full-time or 75% of the time, I'm so thankful to be a part of this.
So the second question is the one we always ask is, with all the wisdom you have now, somebody kind of middle 30s, running lots of businesses, if you could take a time machine back to your younger self coming right out of the Marine Corps, what advice would you give?
Understanding that cash is king.
Yeah.
Right? And understanding that whatever decision you make, you've got to control that cash flow process. You have to take risk, you have to push the envelope to further your business, and you've got to be the decision maker, but without cash, your business folds.
Yeah.
And so understanding that, the small, minute details of running a business, whether it's, the customer interaction, the team interaction, all that is important early on, and it's important for entrepreneurs. But as a driver and controller of the business, your most important thing is to keep that business alive. And the heartbeat of every startup is cash flow.
Yeah.
And so going back and learning that 15, 20 years ago,
you could save a lot of headaches.
I would have 15 businesses versus 5. So absolutely.
Calvin, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Jeff.
Man, it's so good to have you back here.
Thank you.
All right. Man, we are so lucky to have none other than Ronnie Brewer, NBA stud, 8 seasons in the NBA, Razorback, really a hero of basketball here, and now back as the
recruiting coordinator
for the men's basketball season. Yeah. Second year in the row to the Elite Eight.
Absolutely.
And a lot of bright stuff coming. What do you think of the startup crawl?
This is my first time actually being to be able to participate in a startup crawl. Other times y'all had it, I weren't able to participate. But, I mean, it's a phenomenal event that's put on here locally in Fayetteville. A lot of businesses are able to get a part of it. A lot of startup companies are here to be able to display. And there's a lot. It's a great turnout. I mean,
yeah. It's nice to see on kind of a cold day.
I mean, when you play in events like this, you always don't know if the weather's going to hold up. And, you know, earlier today it snowed a little bit, and you thought
at noon, right?
Yeah, you
39 degrees.
Yeah, you thought it was going to rain. You thought maybe the cold weather might have kept some people, some ongoers to come. But it's been great. There's been a lot of traffic that goes through. The music outside has been great. The vendors for the food's been great. You've got local breweries that are participating, and there's some phenomenal companies here as well. Yeah,
well, listen, and I know that Caleb and team really appreciate all the years of service that you've given to the Startup Junkie Foundation as a board member.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate that, because it means a lot to have kind of people from the community that are willing to give their time and their energy to make that thing go. And
absolutely, and for me, it's a little bit of different dynamic. You know, I know him as CJ Smith, but Calvin Smith, and Brett was like, hey, do you want to be a part of this and continue to be a part of it? And, you know, I wouldn't change it for the world. You know, I had my foundation. I thought it was great. But it's not even scratching the surface of what the Startup Junkie Foundation does and what they accomplish and what they mean to the community.
Well, and I'll tell you what, that competitive spirit that you bring, achieving excellence in athletics, that translates to entrepreneurship, that being able to go through the grind. And we appreciate your guidance and the insights that you give to the board and all those companies that we work with. It really means a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot to these companies' success is like being able to work together and learn together.
That teamwork, right?
And teamwork. And sometimes you run into hiccups, you run into some adversity, but that's just like anything in athletics.
Exactly.
You know, or any family. You fight some, you might have some disagreements, but together at the end of the day, you're still a family and you're working for the ultimate same and main goal. And with Startup Junkie Foundation, you know, we're just trying to make the community better. I mean, you laid the foundation for it, and we're just trying to, you know, continue your legacy.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And I'll tell you what, what's the outlook for the Razorbacks? Are we going to win the Natty next year or what? What do you think? We got some great players coming in.
I don't want to jinx this, but we do have some good guys coming in. You know, our staff has worked, you know, countless hours, not only with the team that we had this year. We started off slow, 0-3 in the SEC play, and to have a run like that we did.
It was
amazing. And none of it would have been possible if we didn't have the backing of Razorback Nation.
Yeah.
You know, we really had made Bud Walton a real home court advantage for us. We've had some huge wins there, Auburn, Tennessee, Kentucky, and then, you know, go in the NCAA tournament and knock off the #1 overall team in Gonzaga.
It was amazing.
So, you know, it was an amazing run, but you know, we're not ever content. You know, last year they made it to Elite Eight. We didn't stop there. We wanted to, you know, at least get back to there again. And now, you know, as we lost, and Coach Muss was during his press conference, you know, we're not done working.
Yeah.
And so that night we flew back. The next day we're right on our job. You know, he's pressing me pretty hard at, you know, bringing the next big thing. And so we worked really hard to bring in a really good class. For some people, they got us #2 overall in recruiting. And then #1 in the transfer portal, the guys that we signed. And, you know, to me, we're just scratching the surface. We're going to continue to work our butt off, continue to get better, and continue to sign great kids that want to be Arkansas Razorbacks.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's an inspiration to the entrepreneurial scene as well, because it shows if you set your mind on a big goal and you work really hard at it, the only constraints that matter are the ones you're willing to accept. And it's clear to me that Coach Musselman and the rest of you that are on the staff there, you're not willing to accept anything but the best.
Yeah.
And it's inspiring to all of us.
And it's always been said, this is a gold mine. It's a diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
And, you know, you just got to believe in that. And for me, being from Fayetteville, you know, going to kindergarten through 12th grade here, coming to play here for the Arkansas Razorbacks, I've always seen something here, and that's why I've continued to have a house here. That's why I continue to live here and wanted to work here in this community. And the passion I have about Northwest Arkansas, for the Razorbacks, that's the same passion that, people in the entrepreneurial world is bringing their companies here, and they see something, they want it to thrive and grow. And like you said, the constraints that you have in yourself is, only in your mind.
Yeah.
Because if you let that go, anything is possible and you can achieve anything. And we're a prime example with the Razorbacks. But again, we're just scratching the surface. And if that's motivation to people in the entrepreneurial world, you can do anything, but don't just settle for scratching the surface. You want to keep on grinding, keep on getting better.
I love it. Hey, thanks so much for spending a few minutes with us. Keep doing what you're doing. We have so much fun seeing you out there with the Razorbacks and whatnot. It's really inspiring.
Hey,
keep it up.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Ronnie.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ecosystem builders, entrepreneurs, chambers of commerce, mayors, if you're interested in taking your economic future into your own hands, we've got a book that can help you. Creating Startup Junkies, Building Sustainable Venture Ecosystems in Unexpected Places is the guide. It's a little bit inspiration. It's a little bit toolkit. What it will allow you to do is take your economic future into your own hands and build a sustainable small business, innovation, and entrepreneurial ecosystem in your backyard. If you'd like to hear more, check out creatingstartupjunkies.com. The Startup Junkie podcast reaches over 100 countries and has had over 100,000 downloads. If you're interested in reaching some of the most motivated and engaged innovators and entrepreneurs on a worldwide basis, give us a shout.